Hey there. Happy, what is it? Friday. Happy Friday morning, everybody. Leadership in changing times. Leadership at all levels. Frontline public works professionals, literally from coast to coast, all across North America. From Virginia to California, Alexandria, Virginia to Santa Ana, California. From Langley, British Columbia to Peel Region in Ontario. And all points in between. Texas, Colorado, Missouri. We've got people in Alberta. We've got people in Manitoba. We've got people in New England, Nashua. And first, before we go any further, let me just say to the professionals in Nashua and the professionals in Keene and the professionals up there in the New England states, well done. Very, very well done. This past weekend, all of last week, dealing with the huge storm. So to all of you professionals, all the guys on the plows, all the people in admin who are taking the phone calls, everybody, because it was an all hands on deck endeavor. We thank you for your service to your communities. We thank you for the effort that you put in. We thank you for putting yourselves in harm's way to protect the community. All right, so what are we doing today? Well, we're starting a 15-week program. Now look, I know some of you are sitting there saying, what are we doing? Fact is, I can see some of you right now with your arms crossed. You're sitting back in the back of the room. There's 20, 30, 50, whatever of you in the room. You're sitting back there with your arms crossed. You're looking up at the ceiling. Hey, pay attention. And right now there's guys going like this. He can see us? What's going on? Look, we're doing this program, Leadership in Changing Times, leadership at all levels, for one reason and one reason alone. You're important. You're important. And the American Public Works Association, APWA, and my organization, The Changing Point, a couple years ago came together to develop this first of its kind program because we saw a need for quality training. Well, yeah, but I'm sure you're making a ton of money doing this. $895 is what, or $795, sorry. $795 is what your agency paid to have every employee in the organization trained for 15 weeks. $795 for everybody. That means the city of Tampa Bay and its 1,000 employees, $795. Pierce County, Washington, 3,000 employees or whatever it is, $795. Or your small agency or municipality, $795. And then that gets split in half. So at the end of the day, my organization, APWA, nobody's making any money. We're doing it for one reason. You're important. You touch every citizen collectively. Your department touches every citizen from cradle to grave. Every citizen from cradle to grave. The roads that you design, construct, and maintain, billions of dollars of commerce. The bridges that you are caring for, or your department does, little kids go over that every day to school and home again. So whether it's economic development or whether it's public safety or whether it's just quality of life, you provide the framework, you provide the infrastructure, you provide the platform for a community to happen. Without you and your efforts, a civil society doesn't occur in the 21st century. That's the deal. Well, I don't feel like that. Look, our wages have been frozen for 2 years. Yeah? Well, I don't get treated like that. Every time I turn on the TV or listen to the radio, they're bashing people that work for the public sector. Yeah? Well, people don't give me the dignity and respect of someone that you're talking about. Yeah. I didn't say that everybody understands. I didn't say that everybody gets it. I didn't say that everybody sees the value. But that doesn't make it any less important. That doesn't make it any less valuable. That doesn't mean that it's not an essential service in today's society. Now, truth be told, I used to be one of those guys. My background's big business. Used to help run a big business. And then we had a venture capital fund, and then we decided to do whatever we wanted. Life's been good to us. We can do whatever we want. And so we started getting involved in community. We started schools, my wife and I, and we started recreation and parks programs and youth centers, and started giving away playgrounds all over the world through our foundation. And we started doing all that stuff. And I started researching. I started studying. What does it take to have a great community? What does it take to have a great society? Now look, I'm not the sharpest pencil in the box. I'm not the brightest bulb in the chandelier. I'm not the sharpest tool in the tool shed. 495 students in my graduating class. I was 492nd. Don't be laughing, Stillwater, Oklahoma. Don't laugh at me. What's your point? My point is I'm not the sharpest pencil. But I'm self-educated. People always ask me, where'd you go to college? I said, I didn't go to college, but I did walk through there on my way to work every day. So just self-educated. And as I did research about what does it take to build a great society or a great community, what I started to find was there was two consistents. There was two things that were consistent in all the great societies and all the great communities. One, they had phenomenal infrastructure for their day. They had great infrastructure for their day, whether that was the Dutch, whether that was the Spanish, whether that was the Romans, whether that was the Greeks, whether that was the English, whether that was North America, great infrastructure for their time, right? The Dutch, they had windmills and they had canals. For their time, that was pretty leading edge, and so on and so on and so on. So that was one. Second, great public sector. People who gave of themselves to the community and asked nothing in return. Those two things, consistent. Well, when I saw that and I learned that and I realized that, I said to my wife and to our people on our board, I said, you know what? We got to put time into public works and to the public works profession, because they're making a significant difference in people's lives. And I'll be honest, I didn't realize that. I just turn on the water and drive on the road, and I saw the guy in the plow, and I just, you don't realize it. But when I started to do the research, I realized that you're key. I realized that you're key. Well, about that same time, APWA called me. And they said, Ian, in these changing times, we wanted to know if your company would build a professional development series for our members, for the sector. And I said, well, that's pretty funny, because your members, your people that you represent, people in the public works, have been on my heart. And I'm sure that the lady that I was talking to, Karen Wilson, was like, on your heart? What do you mean? Yeah, on my heart, because I know we can't have a great society. I know that we can't have cutting edge communities we'd all want to live in, thriving communities in the 21st century. We can't have those without great public works. We can't have that without great water and great roads and great all that. We can't have it. And I said, I also understand things have changed. Budgets are tight. And resources are diminished. And I also know that if most people knew the condition of some of our public infrastructure on both sides of the North American border, they'd freak out. I said, so public works is on my heart. And she said, what do you want to do? I said, well, what do you want to do? She said, we want to build this, want you to build a program. And I said, okay, we'll build a program. And at this point now, some 20,000 public works professionals have gone through what you're about to go through. So what I'm going to do today is, with that as a backdrop, what I'm going to do today is lay out the program. We're going to set the tone for the program. Well, why is this called Ignite the Fire? What the hell does that mean? What does that mean? Well, it's a simple law of motion. It's called inertia. The law of motion says this. The law of motion of inertia says that something in place tends to stay in place. Or something on a certain direction, trajectory, tends to stay on that trajectory. Unless there is a force applied that's greater than the force that's being applied currently. A better way to say it, we all get in a rut. We all get beat down, kicked around, and knocked down by life. Yeah, I know that some of your departments have had your wages frozen for a period of time. I know in other of your departments, there have been layoffs. And in some of your departments, maybe those things haven't happened, but there is talk. And so whether you're in Canada or you're in the United States, whether you're in Oklahoma or Texas, or whether you're in Alberta, never before, at least in my lifetime, has the public sector had such pressure and has your industry had such challenges and been so desperately needed. So the purpose of this, the why behind this is critical. You are important. You touch every citizen from cradle to grave. You make a significant difference in people's lives. And we are in changing times. So the whole idea here is to provide equipment so that you can go be more successful. Here's the other thing that I know. I know that you aren't just working as a public works sector employee. Now, let's be clear. For some of you, that means that you work for the Parks Department. For some of you, that means you maintain a cemetery. For some of you, because of your different portfolios of the way your county, the way your regional municipality, the way your city, the way your town, the way your hamlet, the way your agency, if you're part of a water district, the way you're organized, what public works means today can mean a lot of different things. But you, I know, aren't just an employee in the public works sector. I also know that you're a soccer coach. I also know that you are involved at your place of faith. I also know that you're involved in Girl Guides. I also know that you head up the car club. I also know that you're a community member, and many of you community leaders. Some of you probably coached youth athletics for 25 years. Some of you have been involved in your place of faith every Sunday or every Saturday or every Friday, depending on your faith. You've been involved in that for all your life. And you teach little kids and you work with the seniors. Some of you volunteer at the soup kitchen. You're the fabric of our communities. So as you equip yourself for what the times require, you're not only better within your workplace, which makes a significant difference and touches every citizen from cradle to grave, but you're also better equipped out in the community in the other aspects of your life. So why are we doing this? Because you're important and you're a leader. So Ignite the Fire is about getting out of the rut and getting prepared to learn. Ignite the Fire is about overcoming inertia. Now, is it a kind of a silly, trite little phraseology, ignite the fire? This is Anthony Robbins, ignite the fire. Well, really, it is from that law of motion, inertia. And we got it from this space shuttle, when the space shuttle takes off. When the space shuttle takes off, there in Florida, hey, Manatee, Florida, how are you? When this Boca Raton, how are you? When the space shuttle takes off, St. Augustine, how are you? I'm ADD, guys. You're just going to have to deal with it. When the space shuttle takes off, for it to overcome inertia, it expends about 80%, 87% of its energy, 87 to 93% of its energy in that first few minutes. So we've got to do the same to get this thing going. Now, remember that every level, in most of your situations, every level of your organization is going through the program at the same time. I met with directors and executive leaders last week. I'll meet with you today, and we'll meet with your supervisors, mid-level managers later this afternoon. So in most of your instances, the whole organization is going through at once. And the idea here is that we're all learning, we're all growing, we're all being challenged to be a little bit better tomorrow than we were yesterday. But in building this program, there was a couple of things that we had to assume. So you got to write these down. Now, hopefully you have your handouts. Hopefully you have your handouts. You're important. You're valuable. Collectively touching every citizen from cradle to grave. But there was some things I had to assume in building the program. The first thing I had to assume was that you were a professional. Some of you have your master's degree in what you do. Some of you have your doctorate in what you do. They say 10,000 hours is what it takes to get a doctorate educationally. 10,000 hours. Well, some of you have 10,000 hours on the plow. Some of you have 10,000 hours at the water treatment plant. Some of you have 10,000 hours in the administrative role that you play. Some of you have 10,000 hours working on that street, on that road. Some of you have 10,000 hours operating the front end loader. Some of you have 10,000 hours maintaining the urinals at that park. You know what that tells me? That tells me you got your PhD. So to me, you're a professional. Now, what else is a professional? A professional is committed to their task. A professional is dedicated to their task. A professional takes their task seriously. They're a craftsman or a craftswoman, a craftsperson. They take pride in their work as a professional. A professional isn't necessarily educated, right? A lot of fancy letters after their name. I know a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of fancy letters after their name that are completely unprofessional. What's your point? My point is, and you can write it down, that my first assumption about you was that you were a professional and that I would be dealing for 15 weeks with professionals. The second thing I assumed about you, side note, this is important so you know where I'm coming from. Otherwise, this 15 weeks won't make any sense. If you don't know where I'm coming from, it won't make any sense. And if we had the opportunity, I would have called all of you and talked to you to understand where you're coming from. But, you know, we got thousands of people participating. I couldn't do that. But at least you'll know where I'm coming from. So second place I'm coming from is this. I assumed you wanted to do something great. What? I assumed that not only were you a professional, but you weren't just going through the motion of life. That you hadn't gotten to that place yet where life had kicked you down and knocked you around so bad that life has just become a series of Wednesdays. Series of Wednesdays. You know those guys. You know those gals. Wednesday, 2 more days to go. Wednesday, 2 more days to go. And that's all their life has become. Now, there's nothing wrong with that except this. That's wasted potential. So I'm empathetic to how someone can get there. I see how life can kick you down and knock you around and beat you down. I see that. But staying in that place is of no benefit to you, to me, or to society. So my assumption was I was going to interact with a couple of thousand people that wanted to do something great. And not only great for themselves, but great for their families, great for their neighborhood, great for their communities. So it's important to recognize the second assumption because you'll understand where I'm coming from when I say some of the goofy things and crazy things. Third, my assumption was that you would try something that we talk about. My assumption was that you'd understand that we're in challenging times, at minimum changing times. And in these changing times, the old expression works. This expression. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. What? If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. If you want life to be a little bit better tomorrow than it was yesterday, if you want the department to be a little bit better than it was yesterday, if you want your society to be a little bit better, then something's going to have to change. And the only thing that you and I can control is ourselves. So I'm assuming that you're going to try something that we talk about. Look, ain't nobody around here making any money on this program. We're doing it almost philanthropically to do it to support you, to guide, to be of assistance. So out of respect, try some of the stuff we talk about. I respect you. You should respect me. Well, why should I respect you? Because I'm giving freely to you. That's why. And we're giving freely to you. Conversely, as you're getting freely, you should give freely to others. Lighten the burden of your fellow man. I don't know about all that. Nobody's lightening my burden. Life's pretty tough around here. My supervisor sucks. Guy's a yahoo. Okay. All right. I don't know. I don't know what your circumstance. I don't know your situation. I don't know any of that. But just because you're not being led properly doesn't abdicate or doesn't absolve us of the responsibility to do our jobs well. Thousands of citizens are counting on us. Thousands of citizens are counting on us to be great. I was up in Winnipeg a number of months ago. One of the finest compliments I ever got is a guy, frontline guy, walked up to me and he said, you know, I really appreciate what you're doing for our profession. I said, thank you. He said, what are you doing tonight around 11 o'clock? And I said, what am I doing tonight at 11 o'clock, Jeff? I thought, what, do you want to go have a beer? What do you want to do? He goes, well, why don't you meet me on the corner of such and such and slow, and you can ride with me in my plow. You can ride with me in my plow for a couple hours and we'll just get to know each other. I was like, okay, I don't think that that's legal, number one, and I can't believe that that's the city's protocol to let some chubby brown man, that'd be me, let the chubby brown man hang out in the plow. What's your point, Ian? My point is that that guy took his job seriously, that guy understood the profession and its value, and that guy just wanted to share with me a little bit of his experience. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. If we want tomorrow to be better than it was yesterday, then all of us, individually and collectively, got to come up with new and creative and innovative ways. And why is my bet on you? Well, there was a guy a long time ago. Those of you in the States know his name. You in Canada may know it as well. His name was Benjamin Franklin. And Benjamin Franklin said, let the people closest to the problem are the best equipped to solve the problem. You're PhDs. You have master's degrees. At minimum, you have bachelor's degrees in the task that you do, which tells me clearly that you have vocational competency, that you have robust knowledge in what you do every day. Well, if Franklin was right, then you're the guys and gals to solve the operational challenges and problems. You're the ones that will be able to tell us how to do more with less. You're the ones that will be able to give us insight of how we could be more effective and more efficient for the citizens so we can do the important work. Let the people closest to the problem are the ones best equipped to help solve the problems. That's you. But look at this big bubble there. Big bubble. It says you don't need to be sick to get better. What? That's my point. You don't need to be sick to get better. You've forgotten more about what you do than I'll ever know. But this conversation isn't about vocational competency. This conversation over the next 15 weeks is about leadership competency. There's two separate things. Well, what's a competency? A competency is a complex set of skills, attributes, attitudes that make up a thing that make you good at a chosen task. To operate a front-end loader, it takes certain competencies. To cut a diamond, it takes certain competencies. To be a great football player, it takes certain competencies. To be a great hockey player, it takes certain competencies. Well, to be an effective leader, it takes certain competencies. Yeah, but I don't have a title. You know what? In today's day and age, everybody needs to be a leader. That's why it's called leadership at all levels. But you don't need to be sick to get better. So I'm not implying you're not great at your job. I'm not implying you're not great at what you do. I'm not saying that you're broken or need remedial training. I'm just saying we're in changing times and what we've done in the past might not work today. There's an old expression that says the skills, abilities, and competencies to win the battles behind you may not be the skills, abilities, and competencies to win the battle before you. So, in the first 24 minutes, I've tried to make this case. You're important. You touch every citizen from cradle to grave. We are in changing times, and I'll continue to make that point. So the things we've done before may not work as they have in the past. But you don't need to be sick to get better. Now, hopefully, you've watched the orientation video. But because I know many of you have not, I know you have not. I just know you. Or I know the person that signed you up for the program hasn't had you watch it yet. So I want to go through this really, really quick so you understand it. So if we were going to do something for important people, we better build a great program. If we were going to do something for important people, we better build a great program. And we had to take a couple things into consideration. One of those things was that most of these programs suck. And that most of these programs aren't very good. Not because they're not done by good-hearted, well-meaning people, but because they don't take behavioral science into play. You've read books, I've read books. You've listened to tapes, I've listened to tapes. You might have even gone to workshops, as well have I. And why don't they usually work in changing performance or behavior? Because they don't realize that 80% of our behavior is unconscious. What do you mean? Habits, we just do it. 80% of our behavior is unconscious. And that it takes 21 to 28 days to change one of those behaviors. So we had to build a program that was based on that. 21 days to establish a habit. That's why this program is broken down into 5 21-day blocks. In our time together like this, we introduce the information and then we reinforce the information every week for 3 weeks. Now, for some of you, you don't have an email account. For some of you, you don't have a computer. So your department has to work out a way for you to get to that information that's pushed out every Monday of the 3 weeks. And if you look on the next page of your handout, it explains it scientifically. It explains the science behind this. Because you're important people, we had to build a program that had some thought and some depth and some breadth. And that wasn't just some pep talk every couple weeks. So that's what we've done. 21 days to establish a habit. So we introduce a concept, reinforce it for 3 weeks. Now we also had to take into consideration blended learning. Some of you learn by doing, some of you learn by hearing, some of you learn by seeing, some of you learn by dialogue, some of you learn by thinking. So we had to make sure all of those styles we utilized, all of those modalities we utilized. And that's why this live, that's why the learning portal, that's why the emails, all of that. Now look, you can access this information 24/7. Like if you're really gung-ho, as they would say in Canada, if you're really a keener, or as we'd say in Nevada, if you're just hot to trot and you're excited, well, you can be. You can go into that learning portal 24/7, 365. You can share the information with anybody you want. If you find something on here that you think would be valuable for your nonprofit group that you help, use it. I don't care. Use it. The drug dealer is getting better every day. The pedophile gets better every day. The evil people that look to destroy our communities, they're getting better every day. So how about us people? How about us good people? Let's get better every day so that we can build the communities we'd all want to live in. So that learning portal is there for you. And it'll be there for you. This learning portal will be here for you till December 31st, 2013. What does that mean? That means you and your department have this information all year. And it doesn't cost any more. Wait a minute. You're saying that I can use this 24/7, I can give it to whoever I want? Yes. You're saying that we have it till the end of the year? Yes. You're saying that I could take the other tracks if I wanted to? Yes. And you're saying we only paid $795 and there's no other cost? Our whole department only paid that? Yes. What the hell are you doing? You're important. And I know, as thousands of public works professionals get a little bit better tomorrow than they were yesterday, that'll have a direct impact on their department, which will have a direct impact on their community. That's the strategy. Now, what do we expect from you? I expect you to give your best. I expect you to give your best. Now, there won't be many assignments, but every once in a while I ask you to do something. I ask you to do something. Do it. Do it. Secondly, I expect you to be coachable. If one of you sends me an email to ask me a question or ask for an opinion, and I send you a note back, be coachable. Be coachable. Be open to coaching. Put the stuff we talk about into practice, and then give some honest feedback. Now look, don't be giving me feedback on, well, I don't like the shirt he wears. Tough. I don't like the way he talks. Sorry. I don't like his style. Okay. Don't give me feedback on that, because I am who I am. Let's be smart enough and enlightened enough to step above that, and let's focus on what really matters. If there's something that's not working for you, tell us immediately. If there's something that we promised would happen that's not, tell us immediately. But if you're going to tell me about my style, I don't care. I really don't care, because my style is my style. And for some of you, I've totally alienated you already. You're totally put off by me already. Well, rise above that, be a little bit more enlightened by style, and connect with what the heart of the matter is. For others of you, you totally like my style, you love me, I love the chubby brown man, he's awesome. And some of you are in between. So let's move out of style and just focus on content. And if we are doing something that's outside of what we said we were going to do, or we're not delivering on what we said we would have to happen, then yes, I want that feedback right away. Look at this quick quote. It says, "There's nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to attempt, and more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things." A new order of things. I would suggest to you that we are in a new order of things. I would suggest to you that life has changed significantly. I would suggest to you that this quote on this page here that Drucker said is absolutely accurate. He said that every couple hundred years in Western history, society rearranges itself. And the society the grandchildren know is completely different than the society the grandparents knew. What the grandparents knew is completely different than what the grandchildren know. He called it a time of transformation. I think you would agree with me, we're in one of those times of transformation. How have things changed? Things have changed significantly. It's Friday, right? Some of you remember a day on Friday, a time on Friday where you would sprint. You literally would get off work and you would beeline to the bank. Why? Because if you didn't get to the bank by a certain time, 4 or 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, you weren't getting your money. You couldn't get your money, and there was nowhere to get your money. There wasn't 495,000 ATMs across North America. There wasn't, or how many ever there are. There wasn't a way to, hell, you can email money today. That's a fundamental shift. You know what else is a fundamental shift? Let me give you an example. Any of you heard this song? I'm sailing away, catching open door for the tragedy. Sticks. Come sail away, right, Jeff? Jeff is like, what in the heck was that? Sticks. You remember that song? You had your mullet blown in the wind. Remember? Like me, mullet blowing in the wind. And how do you know if somebody has a mullet? Look around the room right now. If you're sitting in a room with other people, you see a man that's bald or balding, he had a mullet when he was a kid. So how do you know that? Because God looks down and says, if you can't take care of that, I'm taking it away. What's your point? Listen. So let's say 1984. That's when I was in high school. 1984, right? 1984, I was a senior in high school. I'm driving down the road. I'm listening to that song. It's Saturday night at 10 p.m. Saturday night at 10 p.m. I'm driving down the road listening to that song. I'm sailing, come sail away, come sail away, come. And I look over at you and I'm like, dude, I love that song. And you're all, yeah. Like Piccoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You're like, yeah. Right? When could I get that song? What? When could I physically buy that song? I couldn't get it on Sunday in most communities because the record store was closed. I could get it on Monday after school. And so I'd have to wait 2 days. And what would I have to do to get that one song? Well, in most instances, I'd have to buy 12 to get the one. I still don't follow you. I'm trying to show you how life has fundamentally changed. We're in a user-driven society where everybody expects things right now. We're in a narcissistic society where people are thinking that everybody wants to hear about them. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Now jump forward with me just a few months ago with my little girl. So we're down in our place in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, area of northern Nevada. Carson City, Lake Tahoe area of northern Nevada. And my little girl comes bounding into my little home office there, better known as the man cave. My daughter comes bounding in. And she says, she's 8. Her name is Nadia. And Nadia says to me, Daddy, she's kind of a sprightly girl. Daddy, can I talk to you? Sure, Nadia. What's going on? Oh, I just want to talk to you. Okay, well, do me a favor. Move 3 feet over to the right because you're blocking the game, but go ahead. And Nadia looks at me and she says, Daddy, ever heard of Miley Cyrus? I was like, yeah, I've heard of Miley Cyrus. Don't be like her. And she says, Daddy, have you ever heard of her new song? Now, if you got little kids, you know what I'm talking about. Ho down, low down, mow down, something or other. I said, okay, yeah, okay. I said, why does that matter? And she said, I just want you to know I love that song. All right, that's great, honey. What else? She said, I just want you to know I just bought that song. You just bought the song. Yep, I love it, and I bought it. I said, how did you buy that song? She says, I bought that song on iTunes. I said, you bought that song on iTunes? When did you get an iTunes account? She said, I don't have an iTunes account. I used your iTunes account. And I said, well, how do you know the password to that iTunes account? She said, well, it's Nadia. And I said, how would you know that? And she stopped and she looked at me, put her hand on her hip and said this, well, what else would it be? What's my point? Look at those two little life experiences. I had to wait 2 days. Nadia get it immediately. Now, what's the point I'm trying to make here? I'm trying to show you whether it's the banking system, whether it's entertainment, and so many other things in society, things have fundamentally changed. People are less trusting than they've ever been, at least in my lifetime. And not only are they less trusting of institutions, they're less trusting of leaders. They're less trusting of others, even in the most rural communities. What else has changed? I don't know. I just don't remember all these horrific tragedies. I don't remember that when I was a kid. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, or maybe now that there's CNN and CBC and all those news channels and everything, but I don't remember them. I don't remember every morning waking up and hearing of some horrific crisis, horrific tragedy, some kid locked up or some kid killed or just horrific things. I don't remember that, man. Things have changed. And you could talk about the family unit, you could talk about diversity of culture and religion and everything else. You could talk about a whole bunch of things, but I think you would agree with me. I've made the point that things have changed. So it's safe to say that the way we've done things in the past probably won't work in that changed environment. Now, I'm not talking about changing principles and values. I'm not talking about changing principles and values. Those don't change. They're long-lasting. They hold true. They're timeless. So you hold your principles and values, but you got to ask yourself, are the ways you're doing things matching what the times require? And we as our departments, are the way we doing things as a department collectively matching what the times require? Progress and change are indelibly intertwined. There can be no progress without change. But why don't we like to change? Because it's uncomfortable. Why don't we like to change? Because it looks like work. I always say it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. Why don't we like to change? Because it might mean we have to admit that we've been wrong. Why don't we like to change? Because we're stuck in our ways and we're comfortable. But the fact of the matter is that progress and change are indelibly intertwined. There can be no progress without change. That's the fact. And we are in changing times, which even exasperates the point. So if I'm in an important role in my community, a public works professional, and all of a sudden society changes around me, and I'm unwilling to change, then I do a disservice to myself, I do a disservice to my family, and I do a disservice to those around me, and I do a disservice to the profession that is noble and honorable and meaningful and purposeful and touches every citizen from cradle to grave. So you got to be open to changing. I don't like that. Well, I'm sorry you don't like that, dude. But I bet you if you sit down and thoughtfully consider in a logical way, not an emotional way, in a logical way of what I'm saying, it makes sense. It's not foolish talk, it makes sense. So we've got to know how to change. Not for just change's sake. That's not what I'm saying. But we do have to sit down and say, are the ways that we're doing things what the times require? Because if we're not, that impacts my little girl, man. My little girl drives on your road. Little Nadia drives on your road. My little girl drinks your water. My little girl will pick up the baton that we have all carried, and she will either say crap. They carried that baton pretty crappily. Is that even a word? Poorly. They carried the baton poorly. I've got a lot of work to do. Or, dang, they were good stewards of that. Let me run hard. Well, Ian, why are you talking to me? You need to be talking to the elected officials. You need to be talking to my director. You need to be talking to the commissioners. You need to be talking to the president or the prime minister. That's who the hell you need to be talking to. Well, how many of you and I both know that ain't going to do no good anyway? But what would do some good is all of us picking out one thing and being a little bit better at it. So that's the premise of this program. We're all just going to pick out one thing and try to be a little bit better at it. That's going to be one of your assignments over the next 15 weeks. I'm going to ask you to tell me what's the one thing you're going to get better at. You don't need to be sick to get better, but we all got one thing we could be better at. So can you imagine if everybody in your department, frontline, mid-level, executive, if everybody in the department just picked out one thing and tried to be a little bit better at it? Can you imagine the impact of that? It'd be significant, a significant impact. So change. Change is all around us. There's nothing in God's universe, nothing on the green earth, nothing in the cosmos that stays the same. Nothing. And you're a fool if you're trying to fight to get to a place where things stay the same, because that's not reality. Safety and security doesn't come from things staying the same. Safety and security comes from you and I being able to adapt, overcome, to be able to take on the challenges that life throws us and work through them. That's where safety and security comes from. Change. We've got to know how to change. Now, here's the beauty of this program. The beauty of this program is that this isn't our only dialogue. That over the next 3 weeks, we'll be presenting more information. One of the things that we're going to present on Monday morning is how to change. This change continuum. Now, again, I know that in some of your situations, you might be saying, but I don't have an email address. I work out in the field. Well, then you're going to have to work with your department, and you're going to have to work with your people, and hopefully they've already set it up so you can get to a computer sometime during the week and look at the little video. It's only about 8 minutes long about this thing called change and how to change. It's a simple continuum, a step-by-step continuum. You don't need to pay Anthony Robbins $1,500 in 3 easy payments. I'm giving it to you right now. And that change continuum came out of deep failure. Deep, 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 deep failure in my own life, where I realized I better change. Like wife leaving, never coming back kind of stuff. And losing everything you have kind of stuff. When you get to that place, you realize you better figure out a way to change. Well, thankfully, we did. And it's very effective. And we've shared it with thousands upon thousands of people all around the world. So I hope you'll take a look at it. Monday morning, you're going to, or not Monday, I'm sorry. Monday is President's Day, and in many provinces of Canada, it's Family Day. So it'll be on Tuesday. Sorry, it'll be on Tuesday morning. President's Day in the U.S., Family Day in many provinces of Canada. So it'll be on Tuesday morning that you'll get that email. And in that email, there'll be a video explaining this thing called the change continuum. All right. So you're important. We're in times of change. We have to have a process for change. And we have to know something about you. So you see, before you can go on a 15-week journey, I think you have to reset some things. Some things that maybe you haven't heard before, or maybe some things you've forgotten. And I really think that the best way to do that is a poem. There's a poem. Her name was Helen Keller, the writer of this poem. Helen Keller was blind. Helen Keller couldn't hear, and Helen Keller couldn't speak. Now remember, we're establishing the foundation for the learning to begin. So this Helen Keller, excuse me, don't be drinking the iced tea before the broadcast. That's not good. Note to self, do not drink the iced tea before the broadcast. Helen Keller was a little girl, 18 months of age. She contracted a disease. That disease took away her ability to hear and her ability to see. When you can't hear at the age of 18 months, you're probably not going to be able to learn how to speak. Well, Helen Keller couldn't speak because of that. But her parents wouldn't give up. They went all over the world looking for somebody, anybody to help their kid. And they came to the doorstep of a guy named Alexander Graham Bell, in southern Ontario, actually. And they knocked on his door. Hey, Alex, can you help our kid? No, I can't, but I know someone who can. You go see Miss Sullivan. Miss Sullivan was a teacher. She spent the rest of her life with this Helen Keller. Helen Keller, the blind, deaf girl who couldn't speak, eventually learned Braille and sign language. Sign language and Braille. There we go. She eventually learned those modalities for communicating. She went on to university, where she graduated cum laude, top of her class. She eventually did learn how to speak, and she lectured all over the world. She wrote 6 books. Now stop and think about that. A girl who couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't talk, ended up lecturing all over the world and wrote 6 books. She's a phenomenal woman, did a whole bunch with a little bit. And she wrote a poem that I think launches us in mind and heart into learning. The poem goes like this. I'm only one, but I am one. No, I can't do everything, but I can do something. That which I can do, I ought to do. And that which I ought to do, by God's grace, I will do. I'm only one. I know for a fact in some of your departments, it has been a very, very bumpy and difficult ride. Budget freeze, budget reductions, layoffs, wage freeze, all those kind of things. It makes you realize, or it makes you think, not necessarily realize, it makes you think that maybe people don't appreciate the work. Then you turn on your TV, listen to the radio, and you hear people bashing the public sector, people that work in the public sector. You hear it happening on both sides of the border, and it's really easy to start feeling like, hey, what I say and what I do doesn't make a difference. Let alone the tragedies of our society, let alone the difficulties of our society, let alone the tough times of our society, let alone our own families, our own situations, and it's sometimes you just feel like you're swimming in mud. I'm only one. Give me a break. What can I do? I can't take on all these challenges. I can't fix all this stuff. I'm only one. Graveyards are full of people today that never got past I'm only one. But what's amazing to me is a girl who couldn't hear, she couldn't see, she couldn't talk, she put a comma. Now think about it. She couldn't hear, she couldn't see, she couldn't talk, she put a comma, and she wrote, but I am one. What an incredible statement of the power of belief. Belief. You're not going to have a great athletic team without belief. You're not going to have a great movement of society without belief. You're not going to have a great individual without belief. And your department's not going to get any better tomorrow than it was yesterday if people within it don't believe it can be better. Belief. It all starts with belief. It might sound trite. It might sound silly. It might sound stupid. It might sound Pollyannish, but it all begins with belief. Always. Getting better, improving, growing, all begins with belief. But why is it so hard to believe? Because we've been knocked down and kicked around. We've been lied to and cheated on. We've been told one thing and another thing happens. We've been let down all the time throughout our lives, whether we were in elementary school or whether in society. And so it beats up that belief muscle, if you will. But here's the funny thing. 70 billion people have lived on the planet. 70 billion people have lived on the planet, and there's nobody like you. There's never been anybody like you. There'll never be anybody like you. In my travels, going 283 municipalities and agencies across North America I've interacted with in the last few years, I believe in frontline employees. Why do I believe in them? Because 70 billion people have lived on the planet, and there's nobody like you. There's never been anybody like you. There'll never be anybody like you. 70 billion people and nobody like you. And I've come across those very rare and unique people with intelligence and talent and ability, with great ideas and something to offer. Well, what do you mean 70 billion people? What does that matter? Well, if there was 70 billion of this watch, 70 billion of this watch, and one that was rare and unique, one that was handcrafted and handmade. If there was 70 billion of this watch, one that was rare and unique, handcrafted and handmade, how much would it be worth? 70 billion and one rare one. 70 billion and one unique one. You're right, it'd be priceless. There'd be no price that you could put on it. Well, that's you. Well, I don't feel like that. Well, I don't care how you feel. That's you, and that's every member of your family. And that's every person in your neighborhood. And that's everybody in our communities. That's every coworker you got. 70 billion people have lived on the planet, and there's nobody like you. I believe in the human potential. I believe that one of you out there has an idea that could transform your department. I believe that one of you has an idea that could transform the way we do the industry in your specific task. Because you got a PhD or you got a master's degree in what you do. But do you believe that? Well, that's pretty utopian in your thinking. What can one person do? Well, Kennedy reminded us that it was one monk that started the Protestant Reformation. It was one general that took an empire from the borders of Macedonia throughout the world. It was one 16-year-old girl. How many of you older than 16? It was one 16-year-old girl that recaptured the territory known as France. And in the United States, it was a singular Thomas Jefferson wrote that all men were created equal. And in Canada, it was a singular Terry Fox that united a nation. So don't tell me one person can't do something. I could give you the names of hundreds, if not thousands, of public works professionals who took it upon themselves to make things better. And they overcame the adversity and the nonsense and the backstabbing and the bickering and all the fighting to go out and make their department better. But what do you believe? I am only one, but I am one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. Hey, Ian, get off my back, man. You don't even know me and you're barking at me? 11 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Pacific time. Why am I getting barked at? I'm not barking at you. I know you can't do everything, man. I know that. I can't do everything. And I know that we're not going to solve global warming in this program. I know we're not going to solve the Middle East crisis in this program. I know we're not going to solve debt and all the crime. We're not going to solve all that. We can't solve the whole big bad world. I can't do everything. But you know what? I can do something. I know I can handle my little corner of the world. Will you handle your little corner of the world? You handle your little corner of the world, I'll handle my little corner of the world, and the world be handled. Choice. Choice. What are you choosing to do? I can't dictate everything that goes on in that commission meeting. I can't dictate everything that goes on in some legislature or capital far away. I can't. But I can handle how I respond. I only got 3 choices in life. I can get frustrated, I can get intimidated, I can get motivated. That's what it boils down to. Frustrated, intimidated, motivated. Frustrated, I can't believe you're fucking wrong. Intimidated, I can't do anything about that. Motivated, okay, let's figure out how we can fix this. I tried that once before, Ian, I got shot down. I tried that 7, 8, 9, 10 times, Ian, I got shot down, I got shot down, I got shot down. Well, maybe we can ignite that thing again. Maybe we can get 5, 6, 8 guys going through it, 5, 6, 8 gals, guys and gals all working together. And because we're having this conversation throughout the whole organization, maybe we can all. Well, that's pretty Pollyannish. Okay, but I believe tomorrow can be better than it was yesterday. That's what it pays to be stupid, man. That's the advantage of being stupid like I am. I believe that things can be better. Because I don't worry about all the reasons like it won't work. Let's just find a way and let's get it done. Choice. So one of the things I want you to think about is, what are you choosing to do with your life? Oh, wait a minute now, man. Don't be bringing life into this. Who are you? I'm just saying you're in an important role, not just within your organization, but many of you are in important roles outside of your organization, leading in other parts of your community, volunteering and putting in time. So what are we doing? What kind of a society are we going to build? Because our kids and history will judge us based on what we do. I can't do everything, but I can do something. That which I can do, I ought to do. Responsibility. Some of you Googled. Some of you Googled. Oh, you do. You Googled me. And what did you read? You read about all the playgrounds we give away and the skate parks and the fitness parks. You read about how me and my wife have started schools and recreation centers. You probably read about that. Why do we do that? Responsibility. Why are we doing this program? Responsibility. I'm lucky to be free. I'm lucky to live in a society in North America where I'm free. Now, I'm fortunate. I get to go back and forth on both sides of the North American border. I've got an office in Oshawa, Ontario, and I got in Northern Nevada. And I get to go back and forth on both sides. I get to see the best of both. So you know what we do? You know, all those playgrounds and skate parks that maybe you read about, you know, all of them or the majority of them are named after a fallen soldier? Yeah. Clearwater, Florida, Arturo Herta Cruz. Crystal Beach, Ontario, Corporal Albert Storm. Yeah. Well, what are you, one of those guys that likes war? No, I don't like war. You're a fool if you like war. You're an idiot. Idiot. But I understand responsibility. And I understand those guys and gals that put themselves on the line and the responsibility they bear. And we honor them. We name the playgrounds after them. And then hundreds of citizens come out and build them. It's really cool. But I also understand the responsibility of a guy who, after a big storm, or a gal after a big storm, that's got to go clear a road so that the emergency services can get through to there. I always say that, you know, it's funny, they say first responders. You know who the first responders are? Public works guys, public works gals. They're the first responders because they got to clear the road so that those emergency services can get through. Responsibility. You and I have a responsibility. To who? We have a responsibility to the taxpayer. We have a responsibility to the generation to come. We have a responsibility to our coworkers. We have a responsibility to our own kids. We have a responsibility to society. We have a responsibility to the guy or gal that gave us a job. Responsibility to do what? Give our best. Not just be a passenger. There can be no passengers on this ship. Everybody's got to grab an oar and row, man. It's the only way we're going to make it. I'm only one, but I am one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. That which I can do, I ought to do. And that which I ought to do, I will do. Commitment. What's the difference between involved and committed? Involved and committed? It's like a chicken and a pig in a bacon and egg breakfast. A chicken and a pig in a bacon and egg breakfast. The chicken is involved. The pig is committed. Now here's what I know. I know for a fact some of you out there watching have been involved in public works or in the public sector for 10 years or more. Raise your hand. I can see you. Raise your hand. Some of them are actually raising their hand right now. That's amazing. If you've been involved in the public sector or in public works profession for more than 15 years, raise your hand. 20 years, raise your hand. 25 years, raise your hand. Now, here's what I want to say about those guys and gals that have been involved 25 years or more. I want to say this. Thank you. Thank you for 25 years of service, of commitment, of dedication. Thank you for 25 years of giving of yourself. Thank you for 25 years. It is the countless, faceless, numberless professionals who've put in decade after decade of service that made our infrastructure what it is today. And we're calling upon you again. We need your talent. We need your insight. We need your wisdom. You can't just be going through the motions. Many, 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 and you know who I'm talking about, have quit and stayed. We can't have quit and stayed, man. We can't have quit and stayed. And that goes for anybody. However long you've been here, you can't have quit and stayed. So those 25-year and more professionals, I say thank you for your service. Service, responsibility, and commitment. The difference between involved and committed is like a chicken and a pig in a bacon and egg breakfast. That chicken is involved. That pig is committed because that pig gives their all. Well, Ian, the pig dies. Oh, okay, that's not the metaphor I'm going for. It just gives their all. I am only one, but I am one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. That which I can do, I ought to do. And that which I ought to do, I will do. You're a rare and unique creature with incredible talent and ability. 70 billion people have lived on this planet, and there's nobody like you. Every day, we have choices. Not necessarily choices of the things going on around us, but we certainly can choose our thoughts, we certainly can choose our words, we certainly can choose our attitude, we certainly can choose our actions. And we can either choose those thoughts, words, and actions to be negative, intimidated, or frustrated, or we can choose them to be positive, motivated. Each one of us must act every day on our responsibility because thousands of citizens, including our own families, are counting on us to do so. And we have to be committed, unlike ever before in these changing times, committed to the ideal of the value of what we do and the ideal of making a difference through our work. That's it. That's the key. That's why that poem, I think, sets the tone for the rest of the 15 weeks. Now look, in the next 15 weeks, we'll get down to the nuts and bolts of leadership. We'll get down to the nuts and bolts of you reaching your full potential, but we had to set the tone, and we have 3 weeks to continue to talk about it. Last thing, I want you to look at 5 questions. 5 questions, and I want you to thoughtfully consider them. Now, we got about 3 minutes. We got about 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Now, on Monday morning, you're going to get an email. That email, for those of you that are signed up via email, you're going to get an email, or your department's going to get an email. If your department hasn't set up a way for you to be able to access that information, you go talk to the person right now who's running this thing and say, hey, I want to get that information. How do I get it? Because on Monday morning, there's going to be that dialogue, 8-minute or so video about how to function, the change continuum. How do I change things? Okay? And then the following week and the following week, you'll get more information. And then we'll get back together 3 weeks from now. 5 most urgent questions. I want you to thoughtfully consider these questions over the next 3 weeks. Thoughtfully consider them. Question number 1. What will be my greatest contribution to my family? Why is your family lucky to have you as a mom? Why is your family lucky to have you as a dad? Why is your family lucky to have you in charge? 2, what will be my greatest contribution to those that I serve? Co-workers, community. What will be my greatest contribution to those that I've led? Hey, you lead somebody, even if you just lead yourself. What will be my greatest contribution to my organization? Why is the organization better for having you in as an employee in this day and age where everybody's saying, well, you're lucky to have me? Well, why are they lucky to have you? What have you contributed? What have you done to make the organization better? I give a good day's work for a good day's pay. Okay, but we're in changing times and we probably need some innovation, some creativity, some cool ideas. Probably. And since you have the most knowledge of what goes on every day, you'd probably be the people that could help. Now, side note, I'm preaching the same message to your mid-level leaders and your executive leaders. So they're getting hammered just as hard. Harder. Trust me. What will be your greatest contribution to your community? Now, here's the funny thing. I know many of you, you've done this. You've made significant contributions. But the point of the exercise is to make it intentional. What will be? Notice that it's inside out. Notice that it calls for me to give, not to get. I think that if you're going to be effective today as a leader or otherwise, because I don't think titles mean anything anymore. I think we just lead. Get things done. If you're going to be a person to get things done, then I think you got to put these things in the forefront of your mind. Life's most urgent questions. So I hope you'll thoughtfully consider them over the next few weeks. Now, Monday morning, get that email or ask somebody, I want to see that information. What was that guy talking about? To force it, right? To force it. If you just show up 5 times and sit through an hour, this program will be a waste. It's not effective. And the orientation video clearly articulates that, as does all the information. The whole thing is comprehensive every week for 15 weeks. You're important. You make a significant difference in people's lives. Collectively, you touch every citizen from cradle to grave. We are in changing times, and the ways that we've done things in the past probably won't be effective today. The only way that we can build the communities we'd all want to live in is that if all of us pick out one thing and try to be a little bit better at it. Try to be a little bit better at it. And over the 15 weeks now, 14 weeks, we'll do everything we can to equip you to try to be a little bit better so that you can pick out one thing and value and do your valuable and important work. You provide the framework, the infrastructure, and the platform for a community to happen, and I thank you for it. Have a great 3-day weekend. We'll be back in touch with you. I keep on saying Monday because it's a habit. We'll be back in touch with you on Tuesday with that email. Tuesday because of President's Day and Family Day in many provinces in Canada. Have a great 3 days. Take care. Stay safe. For those of you that are in the winter climate, stay safe as you're out there doing your important work. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye, everybody.